Engaging celebrity interviews. Exciting updates from Christian filmmakers. Movie reviews so you can choose your movies wisely. And so much more here on Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faith on Film. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Holly, you've been busy. You got a lot of interviews today.
I've been busy. Yes, House of David. Oh my gosh, you guys have got to see it. It's coming on Amazon Prime, and I'm interviewing all the main actors and main people that are in it. David Goliath, I'll say their names later. David Goliath, Saul, his wife, Samuel. Okay, you have seen Stephen Lang in Avatar. You've seen him in Don't Breathe. You've seen him in so many things. And usually he plays this tough colonel mean guy. Well, he's very different as the prophet Samuel. You're going to love him in this. And then, of course, Jon Erwin. So let's see the wonderful answers that we got. And you're going to be excited about House of David, I can promise.
All right. Well, let's go to the trailer first and then come on to you.
Can one stone change the course of history?
Cowards! Send me your champion! Goliath!
Can one act of defiance create a legend? I will tell you the story of David, a simple shepherd boy.
Why do my brothers get to fight? And I'm stuck here.
David, you are not a man of blood.
An outcast who became one of the most famous kings who ever lived.
God does not see what man sees. He sees into the heart. And you have the heart of a lion.
The Philistines have assembled. I saw the print of a hand, larger than a weaver's basket.
They have a giant. What?
My king, I will fight the giant.
Fight him with the same spirit you bring into this room.
You play music for my father. Now he chooses you as champion. How will you do this?
It's not about the greatness of the giant. It is about the greatness of God.
Are you afraid?
Terrified.
I believe in you.
So, as the fate of a people hangs in the balance, again I ask this question. Can one stone change the course of history?
John, congratulations. I was so excited to see this and can't wait to see the rest. It was phenomenal.
Great.
I mean, this is beautifully. Oh my gosh, above and beyond. Excited when you know you've seen something that's a marker that is going to, be popular, not only with just Christian audience, but all over the world. This is an amazing story.
That means so much to me. Thank you.
Oh, such an amazing story. I can't wait. Isaac and I are going to do a whole half hour on it. So we're excited to do this and cover it. But I really wanted to ask you, first and foremost, there's kind of a controversial thing. Let's talk about the fun stuff. There's many people that don't believe that David was illegitimate. And of course, this is part of your story that he does. Why did you choose that? And where did that come from to feature that in the story?
Yeah, that's a great question. And of all the things that we really wrestled to the ground and really researched, it's this question of David's origin. And, I really felt a necessity to develop a storyline that tried to explain how David spoke of himself. He talks of himself as illegitimate, as an outcast, not only in his family, but to his community. And then you have the very glaring fact that all of Jesse's sons were called before the prophet Samuel except David. So I was like, why was this kid hidden away? Why would David write about himself and say he was illegitimate and disdained and despised in his own family, and then also in his town. And then the greater metaphor that God really does choose the outcasts, you know, he uses the weak things of the world to confound the wise. And so we went very deep into rabbinic tradition that's very difficult to understand and portray. And so we developed this storyline to try to bring a visual and emotional portrayal of his relationship with his mother, and some sort of exploration that might explain how David spoke of himself. Whether or not you agree with that choice, because that's the biggest gap we had to fill in, because there's no mention of his mother of substance in the Bible at all, except there's one verse. And so, but there is the way he spoke about himself and his origin that is glaring and apparent and a big part of his story. And so this is at the very least a conversation that I look forward to people having, because I think so many of us feel like we are the outcast or that the thing that's despised, or we don't feel legitimate. We all feel like David spoke about himself, at one time or another.
I had never really thought about that. So it was interesting to me as I watched it to like, oh, this is a new concept. I mean, I've heard the story of David and Goliath since birth. So, it's not something that you feel like you can get new, but this was a lot of new. And because there are a lot of things that are not spoken, you pick up on that. And I love how it's done. I know it's hard to say because there's so many hours of amazing, incredible, epic performances, but do you have one of your favorites, or was there a favorite or two scene or something that dear to your heart when we see it?
There's so many. I mean, first of all, I'm a fan of the material, and the fact that Prime Video globally, Amazon, has given creative control to believers is unbelievable in this, and it's a testament to the loudness of our voice as a community, whether it's in support of something like The Chosen or my films like Jesus Revolution, or I Can Only Imagine. They've done this, and so at the very, I'm first a huge fan of the material.
Yes.
So there were moments where we're filming David Goliath and Michael, who's this amazing Christian kid as well, first role. We were literally like, we're doing David and Goliath. Like, we're filming David and Goliath. This is crazy. And so that was amazing. But then also some of the material that Stephen Lang, who plays the prophet Samuel, and one of the great actors of our time, whether it's in Avatar or Tombstone, I mean, he's a fundamental actor. Yes. He's amazing. Great, amazing character actor. Some of the material that he delivers, which is sort of the deeper meaning and thematic material of the series, he has a scene where he talks to David's father later in the season, where he says basically that the sacrifices that are most meaningful are the ones that are most precious to us.
Yes.
And you have to offer God the very best, the things you care most about. And that's a very, very profound scene for me, and they do an amazing job. So I love that moment, but then there's nothing like portraying David and Goliath. That moment where Michael gets up, spoiler alert, David kills Goliath. I'm just going to say it. It's in the Bible.
but you know what? I never thought about him falling down. I mean, I never thought about that. There were so many new things you introduced. I'm like, wait, what? It was great.
Yeah. It's I wanted him to rise up, and so I wanted to knock him down so he would get back up. And I hope the audience as well, you're cheering for him to get back up on his feet, which he does. But it was a pretty amazing thing to portray, and Michael's so good in it, and I just can't wait for the audience to see it. We've been working on this for a very, very long time, and we've just poured our hearts and souls into it. And there's almost 700 people working on the series.
Oh my gosh!
And so it's just this amazing group, and I can't wait for people to finally get to see it. And this first, I made some films that I love and I'm very proud of, and made them with wonderful people. But this is the first truly global release in my career, so it's going to be, released all over the world on February the 27th.
And because you know this, I worked with Mel Gibson on The Passion, but I have the same excitement for you on this, because I think this is going to reach beyond what audiences may even think. It's going to reach beyond that, and the way that it's going to be distributed, and it's going to be life-changing for so many people.
Well, that's high praise. And Mel is a master craftsman. I mean, he's just one of the great craftsmen in the film industry, and has really blazed a trail. And of course, Dallas, who's just a wonderful friend, has created something so amazing with The Chosen. And I have the good fortune of being like second in the water here, and calling him most every day to ask his advice on portraying the Bible. And I just hope people realize that I remember when some of the executives read the scripts for the first time, the first 3 scripts, they said, man, these scripts are really good. I'm like, it's based off a bestseller. You should check it out and read it. It's a really good book. And I hope that's what people do. I hope they see the series and they it drives them to the Bible itself and to the Psalms of David. There's a profound truth to the Psalms, and I hope people read them.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I was going to ask about working with John Gunn, but I'm out of time. But I've worked with both of you, and I love it. I'm so proud of you.
John's the best collaborator you could ever ask for. I love him dearly, and would be lost and adrift without him. And his movie Unbreakable Boy is fantastic and coming out very soon as well.
I've interviewed you before, of course. Iconic. Love the films you've been in, and Breathe, Avatar. Many of them I've done the junkets for. But this was a very different role, and it was kind of fun because I waited to see everyone in character before I saw who was in the film. And I recognized your voice. And I'm like, wow, what a different performance and look for Stephen. Very different character. Lots of hair, wasn't there?
Yes. It's all about the hair. Yeah. It's actually interesting you say that because, the hair became his vanity. In a way,
yes.
And I understand that vanity is a sin, but I think you need to understand that vanity is not one of the 7 deadly sins. It's a minor sin. So I think it's okay if Sam is just a little bit vain of his hair. Actually, at one point, I actually tossed my hair, and as an actor, I feel a deep sense of shame at having done that. But what do you?
Hey, you're one of the few you're one of the few men who get to do that, though. I'm sorry.
Well, half the time I've got a crew cut,
I know. Half the time you hardly have any hair. I know, that's so true. That's so true. You must have grown up. I don't know if you grew up in a religious home or faith home, but everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. I mean, how could you not? But Samuel, not so much. This was a very interesting study on the role he had to play. I mean, even though he's mentioned, he's not really focused on. So I found it fascinating, this character, didn't you?
Well, Samuel is really how do you want to say, he's kind of the trigger or the ignition.
Yes.
For everything that happens here. And of course, he's a revered figure in 3 of the world's major religions, which is to say Islam, of course, which you may not know, I'm sure you do, Christianity and Judaism,
right.
Of course. So your observation that he's not as well known as some is true, but certainly not as well known as David or Goliath, but I think that he does occupy sort of a pretty prominent place.
Yes.
In the pantheon of Old Testament figures. He probably would be second only to Moses, if in fact he is second to Moses. I don't know, but he's an important figure. Yeah. He's certainly the only figure in this time who has a direct relationship with the Lord, the Lord God, and that carries a whole lot of responsibility with it.
Yes. Playing this iconic character, and we, no matter what religion you are, you've heard about Samuel, or you heard about the role that he plays in for David. But for you, was this a different kind of story that both the Jon Erwin and Jon Gunn, the directors, presented to you? Was it what made you want to choose this role for you? Because it was like a nitty gritty in the dirt, really different kind of character.
The story of David and Goliath. That's how the story is usually phrased. This is the story of David and Goliath. It's a very basic story. It's almost like a golden book story. We tell it in that way,
Yes.
When in fact, and in truth, if you do read it in the Old Testament, it's told not in a golden book way, but it's told sort of by the numbers, as it were. It's not fleshed out.
Yes.
The way we expect a narrative to be fleshed out in terms of a character. You don't know who Goliath is as a guy. Mm-hmm. You know something about David, but you don't really know them. And I think what the Johns have done here is that they've done a very masterful job, I think, in fleshing out these characters to the extent that they present actors an opportunity to really go to town, to really explore and to find out the relationships between the characters on a human level, not merely on an Old Testament kind of doctrinaire level.
Right.
Find out who they are as people, to find out what and then they take liberties. There's no question about that. We can surmise that Samuel was married by reading Samuel 1 and 2 because he has sons. Lousy sons, miserable sons, but sons nonetheless. So he probably was married, had at least one wife.
Right.
The Johns have done a wonderful thing. They've given Samuel a wife.
Yes.
Hela, and it's a lovely performance, and it's such a pleasure for me playing, because here I am, I'm playing the prophet, the seer of God, playing the guy, you know.
Bet you never played that part before.
and I'm playing roles, and I'm doing domestic scenes with my wife as she kind of braids my hair. You know, it's just a great opportunity, you know, for me. Does that address the question?
It does address the question.
It happens to me sometimes.
And I know it does address the question. And I mean, because there's scenes of you in the dirt and doing things, and, you know, very, I thought, true to what it would have been like biblical part. Have you seen the series? Have you watched any of it yet? What do you think of it seeing now? Is it majestic to you? Because it was to me.
I think it's beautiful. I really do. And I mean, look, I'm not that easily impressed, and I'm very tough on myself as a rule. But as I get older, I'm getting easier on myself. but I thought that after I wanted to see the series after I saw the trailer. The trailer can always tell you a lot, you know. Well, the trailer was just incredibly good, I thought. And then I've watched the episodes, and I just think they're stunning. I think I would say that there's no one department. I would single out every department, from the hair and makeup, to wardrobe, to the art department, to the camera work, to the stunts. The stunts are amazing, I think, in it. It's got this is the big screen stuff that these people have put on in episodic form, and so I think it's a beautiful show, and I love what they have given me the license, what I've been allowed to do with Samuel, because I don't think Samuel has been interpreted on film very often. I looked it up one time, and interestingly enough, Leonard Nimoy played Samuel in something, but I do think that Leonard Nimoy will always be remembered more as Dr. Spock.
Yes.
And it's possible that I'll always be remembered as Ike Clanton rather than Samuel. I don't know, but in any case, it's a great gift for an actor to be given an opportunity to put his stamp on a role as iconic, you know, and as kind of important, I'd say historically and legendarily, as the prophet Samuel. Yeah.
I love that answer, and that is exactly how I feel. And you can be very proud of this. I feel like this is going to take off more than just Christians. I think people of all faith will be intrigued by this story, and because it's not a Christianese story, it's a phenomenal, majestic epic. Really, I felt.
To be perfectly honest with you, I felt if this was something that was designed solely for Christians, I don't know that I would have felt that I wanted to participate in it. But and then that's not to diss anything. It's just
no. I understand what you mean. I understand.
But here's the thing: Samuel himself is an absolutely revered figure, not only among the Jews, not only among the Christians, but among Islam as well. 3 of the world's major religions consider Samuel to be a seminally important figure. And that, to me, presents an opportunity to portray a figure that means something to very, very diverse thinkers, to people of very, very different faiths, to people who perhaps don't agree on many things. A lot of times, and those disagreements can take all kinds of forms, you know, but to play a figure where actually possibly they can, I don't know, kind of come together in their own appreciation of it in its own small way, I think that's cool. I think that's a valuable thing to be able to do.
I think it is. And you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for those great answers. And sorry we had the confusion, but I'm glad I got the time because those were beautiful answers. Thank you. God bless you.
Michael, I know you probably grew up with this story as a child, but you probably never dreamed you get to play this character, nor you, Martin. Let's first talk, Michael. What was it like being chosen to play David?
Well, I actually did dream of playing David.
Did you?
I watched The Chosen like 3 years ago, and I was like so inspired by it, and I got my whole family to watch it, and um, they were like, you're an actor, you should do stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And they said, well, who would you play? And I told them I'd love to play King David one day, maybe like the younger King David or something. Who knows? And fast forward 3 years later, here I am, like having this opportunity to portray him, and it's such a blessing. Um,
Ah, such a
yeah.
powerful, such a performance that you did, including singing and acting and throwing stones. You did a lot in this role. Martin, how about you? Because this, in the Marvel movies, we get to see the bad guys, the imaginary. This is a real bad guy that you got to play, real giant. How was it for you getting chosen for this role?
Absolutely. I feel that the last few years for myself, having played characters of substance in the bad guy world, from Flammer to Shao Kahn, and now to top it off, Goliath. I've been extremely fortunate with how my career has gone, and the opportunity to bring such an icon to, I don't think icon's probably the right word,
No, he
such a
is. He
character
is. He's iconic.
history to life. It was tremendous. I mean, for me, I genuinely feel a sense of pride that I've done Goliath justice, and I think I think this whole show has been incredible, and it really tells a story, and well, so many stories within one story, which I think is what will keep people captive. It would keep them interested throughout the whole show, and I think that's the risk you run when doing a series, is that it's a long time to keep an audience engaged. And I believe there's so many stories within this that are so good, and also there's understanding from especially people of religion, understanding of these stories already. So there's a sense of responsibility to do the story justice and to stay true, but also try and put a bit of a spin on the characters to bring them to life, and to bring something to the audience that they may not have seen before, and really get them to ask questions about themselves and about the show. And for my character, that was my main objective, was to try and, I wouldn't say sympathy, but for people to try and understand why Goliath did what he did. And ultimately, I think as people of religion, that you need to have some element of understanding and forgiveness and empathy, and I think we did that. I think Goliath's character gave people that opportunity to feel those emotions.
I talked with Jon Erwin, and I love both Johns. I've worked with them both before. And he said one of his favorite scenes, of course, was the battle scene, which is iconic. I mean, it's iconic. But I got to admit, this was a little different than the way I imagined it or grew up reading it as a child and thinking the Bible. Michael and Martin as well, but talked about how this was different in your eyes to even do this scene. And how hard was it? Was it hard?
It was, I mean, in a very similar way to the show, I was dealing with an injury during the time of filming, that I had torn my shoulder slinging, because I was slinging so much, trying to just make it as natural as possible. And I remember I couldn't sprint, I couldn't run, I couldn't sling, I couldn't do anything with my shoulder
Wow.
like 2, 3 months. And that day came where we were going to film this slinging moment. And the fight coordinator came, and we warmed up the shoulder, and then they had like 6, 7 cameras set up. If I tear my shoulder again, they at least have one take that they could use.
Yes.
And I remember they called action. I ran, I did the throw, and it landed, and everyone kind of held their breath. Cut. Michael, are you okay? Yes, let's do it again. And we did it like 7, 9 times.
Wow.
Pain in my shoulders. It was one of the miracles that we had on the show for me.
Yeah, were there miracles on the show? That's definitely one of them for sure.
Plenty. But yeah, that's one of them, and it's very special to me, and it's very reminiscent of the actual battle. So yeah.
And Martin, for you, you got to the big scene where Goliath goes down, but boy, he raises heck before that. I'm telling you, it was fascinating watching it.
Yeah, I think what was important was to try and bring something new, but not change the originality of the story. It's
Yes.
And I think that's the risk that you run with this. It's like, do you really risk changing a story of this magnitude just to get views, or do you stay true and honest to the scripture and then try and find deviants along the way that are non-offensive, that could possibly have happened, and also build up a sense of excitement and freshness? Because I think that's also important. I think what this does, it really brings in a new audience to the religious world, and it allows people that would never normally want to or have the opportunity to read scripture, to visually see it. And then, maybe there's a connection, maybe there's an opportunity to plant a seed. And I think that's what this show is really good for. It doesn't isolate people. It brings in people from all different genres and all different beliefs and religions, and just tells a story very well. And it allows you to watch, to follow along, and to ask questions. I think that's what's really good about this.
Oh, it does. It does. And it's also the fact that it's much like The Passion, much like what The Chosen has done. You're taking a biblical story, but it's reaching, like you said, really all faiths and all people will be fascinated, I think, by this, especially because it's on Amazon. Was there any other particular scene that you guys, Michael, or you, Martin, had, what is one of your favorites in filming? Because there was so many episodes, I know, series, there's hours of it, but was there another one that you particularly, really loved?
Oh man. I have to say, one of my favorite, this is not a very specific scene, but one of my favorite memories, it's one of the other miracles on the show. It's approximately 3 seconds on screen, but it's the sheep following David. And it's a really long story, but to sum it up, the sheep hated me. They didn't want anything to do with me. And for months, we tried getting these sheep to follow David, and it did not work. And it was the last day of filming, and it's the last day we're going to be on location. We have one take, the sun's going down, and they bring the lamb that I had saved earlier, a different story. They put it on my shoulder. He's like really scared. He's covered in blood, and he's peeing all over me and stuff. And they're like, all right. The whole premise is that the sheep are following me down a hill.
See, Isaac, I told you they were great interviews. I mean, great interviews. Well, everyone who participated, I love House of David. You are going to love it too. It's premiering February 27th on Amazon Prime. And the first 3 episodes. So you can watch 3 episodes and it'll be released after that. But I'm telling you, folks, if you love The Chosen or shows like that, you're going to go beyond and love this. It's epic and a very different twist to some of the characters than maybe you thought before. So I think you're going to love it.
All right. Well, Holly, you took up all the time on the show today, so I only have time to tell people go visit our website, faithonfilmtv.com. That's faithonfilmtv.com. Holly, we'll see you next week.
Your most important mark.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.